In my mind, when I want to relax, I take myself back to the Wind River. Just breathing in that clean, fresh air and being able to go down to the river and drink that fresh water and see life around you and having the sun shine on you from the morning until night. I think a lot of people need that. These kind of places give you that space to reflect on who you are and who you are without technology. And for young people in particular, I think being out on the land in these places gives them a sense of hope. I know that it gave that to me.
That's Bobbi Rose Koe, Arctic river guide and founding owner of Dinji, a unique Indigenous-run outfitting company that also trains Indigenous youth to become expedition guides. For that, and her extensive efforts to protect the Arctic's Peel watershed, she received the Canadian River Heritage Award in 2021. I'm really happy to have her as our guest on part 2 of our 2024 canoe series here on Explore, a Canadian Geographic podcast. Welcome to all you explorers out there, armchair and in motion. I'm David McGuffin. Back in 2018, I got to spend a few weeks paddling in the Peel watershed on a Royal Canadian Geographical Society expedition with my son Graham and my cousin Terry Campsell. You can read about it on the CanGeo website. It's called Back to the Peel. This is a snippet of what it sounded like for most of that journey. The landscape and wildlife there are just stunning. Canoeing down through snow-capped peaks of the Mackenzie Mountains, the wind is a carnival ride of a river, frothing as it drops through several days of whitewater to the Arctic lowlands and the Peel River, which then meanders at a more leisurely rate to Fort McPherson, home community of the Tetlit Gwich'in people and of our guest today. Tetlit Gwich'in means people of the headwaters, and as a proud member of that First Nation, Bobbi Rose Koe has thoroughly embraced those words in her life as a river guide and leader. She takes pride in telling First Nations history as she leads trips through her lands and dedicates herself to getting her own people back out into the traditional lands they once roamed for centuries. She has a fascinating story to tell and a deep love and personal history with the rivers of the Peel watershed. So let's get to it. Bobbi Rose Koe, welcome to the Explore podcast.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's great to have you on with us, and I'm really excited to have you because I've had the great privilege of paddling through your country, through the Peel River watershed and Gwich'in country up in the Yukon and the Northwest Territories, and it is possibly the most beautiful country I've ever been in my life. And I've traveled a fair bit, and it is just stunning coming out of the mountains down into the Peel River. It's just, the mountains are gorgeous, the landscape is gorgeous, there's wildlife. I just want to say thank you for letting me have that privilege to go through your territory. You grew up in Fort McPherson, which is where we ended our trip, and I got to meet some people up there. And just what was life like for you growing up in Fort McPherson?
Growing up in Fort McPherson for me was fortunate and thankful to grow up in a small community. Fort McPherson is north of 60. The population back then was less than 700 people. Everybody knows everybody. Because I was raised by my grandparents, I got to travel to many places and get to know older people. And through that experience, I really got to learn more about the land and where I come from and who we are as Tetlit Gwich'in, which means like people of the headwaters.
I love that name. Yeah.
Yeah, I go home and I feel the same way. I feel like a little girl, walking down the street. Everybody tells you hi, everybody checks up on you. There's people who like give me hugs and tell me hello, like happy. And even though it's been like a few days, they'll still say, it's so good to see you again. And it's a place where like I really grew up to harvest fish from the land, caribou, different animals, and like go trapping. and know what it feels like to be cold or to be hot, and to feel like very well taken care of, but also feel like a responsibility to take care of others.
So you say you're raised by your grandparents, and they sort of helped you gain that connection to the land. Would that mean going out physically on the land often with them? What was that experience?
When I was younger, I really loved it. I feel like, and this is like, 7, 8, 9. I growing up out there, like out on the land, like we have our family cabins up and down the Peel River. Going out on the land with my grandparents made me feel at home and taken care of, but also for some reason I thought, or I felt like it was like a fairy tale. Seen through a little kid's eyes, it was just like, sunshine and butterflies and watching everything grow around me or move, watching the systems of the animals and the weather and the seasons, and having my grandparents help lead me and help teach me to become a teacher and who I am today. It's because of all those experiences, and as I got older they gave me more responsibility. Back then, being a teenager, I felt like it was too much responsibility and I didn't really want to do that, but then the Peel court case came in, and that's where we really had to stand up. But now that that's done, yeah, I still continue to go out there.
Just to remind people too that that was the Yukon government tried to open up the Peel Watershed to mining companies. Is that right? And that went all the way to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I was actually looking at your photo that you shared with me, and it looked like you met my grandfather. He was the one in the coveralls, and that was pretty cool because my grandfather, Robert Alexi Sr., is pretty well known for the Peel River.
Yeah,
He worked at the campground, but also our cabin is a trail river, and he met a lot of people who traveled down the Peel watershed.
a really important, not just elder in your community, but really important in that whole fight. Yeah, and the couple I spent the most time with was Ernest and Alice Vitraquois. At their fish camp on the Peel River. I spent a couple of days with them, helping them pull whitefish out of the nets and watch them do all their smoking. And it was just such a lovely experience, such a great pace to that whole life. I mean, just talking about sort of the knowledge of the land and they're both elders, and I had a map of where we'd come from down the wind into down the Peel, and I was showing it to him, and he was looking at it and describing all the places he'd been on it. It was almost as if someone in the city was describing how they drive to work, but for him it was this whole massive Peel watershed, and he just when we go over here do hunting or whatever this over here. And it was just so amazing to see someone so knowledgeable, so understanding that massive area, which isn't a huge area.
Well, you're lucky. I didn't really have maps like growing up too much because I'm still trying to figure out how maps work. But
Mm.
prior to me going into the Peel watershed or like even traveling out on the land, I would have to go interview people like we're doing right now, about the places that they've traveled, and the places that their parents traveled, and the connection to these places. And I would only be able to have their stories. I would have to figure out the rest, and which means like I would have to travel the land and take time and really remember those stories and connect these different places to the stories or to the people. And that's like what brought me into these places, is those stories and the people that shared them and finding those connections.
I mean, to have those stories. So, I mean, I want to talk about your outfitting company, because you set up your own canoe guiding company called Dinjiju Adventures, right? Just a
Mm-hmm.
few years ago now. One of the great advantages of having you as a guide would just be to have access to those stories, like stories and legends and things that go back, thousands of years.
Yeah, it's different. It's different than the way that we used to do it, but having a river guiding business is something that I always wondered about, but I never knew that I could do. But going out there and learning more about how we could make impacts and help people see the bigger picture, but also see those little changes or big changes that are happening out on the land. letting people know that we're still here and we're still traveling the land. That's like one thing that I heard from like the Peel court case when it was going on, is that, we're sitting in these big court cases, and a lot of people, well, the people who wanted development in the Peel was saying that, the people don't use it, the people don't know it. Well, why are we not using it? Being able to sit in all those meetings and those courtrooms with a lot of the elders and leaders and people that are connected to that area was kind of like the stepping stone behind the Jeju adventures and where it is now. It was gifted to me as a direction for the Peel watershed and what we need to do, and making sure that our people and other people have or can have or do safe river tripping down these rivers with the people of that area too. I'm able to work with a lot of young Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people as guides and river guides. And that's another incredible part about my business, is that I get to train other young people and bring other young people either into their own traditional territories or our backyard, wherever they want to go.
Yeah. So where are some of those young guides coming from?
When we had our training, we had youth from the NWT and BC. Yeah, we did a call out for people across the territory, and that's, yeah, the youth that we got is both from NWT and BC. But a lot of the youth that we work with is mostly across the Yukon and NWT, but we're seeing more youth come from Alaska and BC, and more youth who are interested from Ontario and other places. But I want to make sure that people in the north are getting opportunities to be able to travel to these areas as well. And that's super
Yeah.
important to me.
Yeah. You yourself didn't get onto many of these rivers until like later in your life. Is that right? In terms of paddling and
Yeah, I spent time in a canoe, but it wasn't for like fun. It was mostly
yeah.
like, where we were going to from A to B. We were checking net in canoes or checking traps or going across frozen rivers or open
Yeah.
waters, like right now with canoes. But it wasn't until 2015 I went on a trip into the Peel, and I
Mm-hmm.
went on whitewater for the first time.
How was that time?
I was really terrified to go. I didn't really want to go because it was my first time traveling without my people. A whole bunch of elders like were getting me ready prior to the trip, and they made sure that I got on my plane. They took me to, a couple of them took me to the airport and made sure I jumped on the plane, and then I ended up going into the Peel. And before I went into the Peel watershed into our home, I was really nervous. Like my heart was beating really fast. And one time I explained it as a feeling of coming back home after a long period of time.
Hmm.
When I was younger, I used to travel a lot, and when I used to be gone a long time, my great grandmother used to get mad at me, and she used to tell me, "Come home now. It's time to come home." And I used to be always so nervous to go home, but always so excited. But I knew that my grandma would like give me shit because I never been home for a while. But knowing that when I go home, I would get, a big hug, or I would get tea made for me and caribou meat, and like just feel comfortable. And that was a similar feeling of going into the Peel. I was nervous and terrified, but also excited. And when I got there, it was a dream. It was a dream come true, and felt like I was getting hugged by my grandmother. I felt so much love and like power.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it still feels that way. Every time I go back home, I feel closer to my grandparents.
That's incredible. Because if you look at the traditional territories of the Tetlit Gwich'in, your people, the Peel and up the Wind and those rivers, those were all like that was winter hunting grounds, and there was the whole migratory route that would go on and Fort McPherson was really, that was the summer whitefish camp, wasn't it? So these are all territories you guys roamed.
Yeah, it's different in that way for me because my people lived in that area before they moved down to Fort McPherson. Like when I first went through the Peel Canyon and I paddled home after
Mm,
the summer trip, my juju, my grandma told me uh, that her mom paddled through the Peel watershed in 1924 or
yeah.
1927, and she was only 16 or 17 years old. And back then, women never really paddled through the Peel Canyon because it was so dangerous.
There's a whirlpool right in the middle of it,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
there?
yeah. And
Yeah.
well, imagine back then the water levels, but also the whirlpool and no like safety gear. I mean, they did have safety gear, but like having these like 9-person moose hide boats going through the Peel Canyon, imagine that, right?
Yeah, no, it's spring melt. Yeah, crazy
Yeah.
waters. Yeah.
My grandma was saying, my juju, her mom, went through the Peel Canyon. They were probably the first woman to go through the canyon at the time. Like not even 100 years later, her great granddaughter is still paddling through the canyon, and that was just amazing. And from that first trip, and getting to understand more of what these expeditions look like and the setup and what guiding is, it really inspired me.
Yeah. I'm just thinking too, that warm hug you felt like you were getting, that might have been from your great grandmother, actually.
Oh my gosh, shut up. Oh my god, you're gonna make me cry.
But seriously, right?
Yeah, that's on my Juju side, and on my Juju side, I have audio of her talking in her when she was in her 80s, and she was talking about when she was 12 years old and growing up into the Peel watershed, and how they would go from the Bonneplum to the Snake and over to the Wind and over to the Heart and the Blackstone, and she would just like talk about how life was back then. And yeah, it's really beautiful to like see where they're talking about and then going to find these areas and be like, hey, like my grandmother paddled through this area, or like my great grandmother and my grandfather lived here before, and my great grandfather is buried around the Heart River. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is very cool. You had deep roots there.
Literally.
Yeah. Buried in the ground. Yeah, that's true. Amazing. So, I mean, you've mentioned a whole bunch of rivers there. Are those all rivers that you'll be leading trips on, guiding on?
Not in one summer in my life.
No, no, in your life. But so this summer, like, where are you leading
Well,
trips?
I started in Juju Adventures back in 2001, and since then I've been leading trips like on the Yukon River, on the Beaver River, on the Wind River, on the Nahani. And then I also jump on other trips with Canadian River Expeditions, who's the owner's one of my really good friends. I do trips for them as well, and that can vary from river to river all across Canada. I have a goal of paddling like a lot of rivers in the north. And if you don't know, the north has like, I don't know how many rivers you could paddle, but
A
there's
lot. Yeah.
a ton of dream rivers to go on still. I mostly try to guide in the Peel watershed, where I've been guiding for the last 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
7, well, since 2015. I don't know how long that is now, 8 years. I've been on the water. This year is a kind of weird year because, well, it's actually not a weird year. I'm actually going home to Fort McPherson for part of the summer. For the last 8 years, I've been like doing river tripping, but just this last year, in my family and community, we had a lot going on, and I just think it's time for me to spend some time in river time
Mm-hmm.
with my people in McPherson.
Yeah.
Although I will be heading into the Peel watershed onto the Wind River in July, and maybe to be doing Nahani.
As
Um,
well.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really hard decision for me to make, but
Yeah.
my grandparents are older,
Yeah.
And the summer is like the best time to spend with them because you take them to the river. We could stay up all night. The sun doesn't
Yeah.
like go down. So
Tea and smoked whitefish, right?
yes, Peel River whitefish. You're not gonna like get any kind of whitefish, smoked fish.
Exactly. It's good for the
Uh,
soul. Yeah.
yeah, but by the Peel River is like the best, and made by Ernest and Alice too. It's like my one of my favorite places to get half smoked whitefish.
Yeah. Yeah. Right by the ferry crossing there, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well, when you see them, definitely say I give them my best. So I want to ask you what your favorite rivers are, but I'm going to tell you why I love the wind. Can you guess the number one reason I love the wind?
because it's windy.
No, well, that's also true because there's no bugs, right? Almost no bugs, which was lovely. That's a very good reason. Um, but no portages too. That's my favorite.
Oh yeah. Ontario has so much portage.
Yeah, no. Here in central Canada, there's a lot of lugging canoes on your back. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a little
yeah,
portage, but that's like nothing. And then you line yourself down to the confluence of the wind, and
yeah,
then you see the wind right there. And then you go over to Blueberry Mountain, and you just see the whole wind open up. And
yeah,
it's such a dreamy river. I've been on a lot of rivers here in the north, but when it comes to the wind, there's something about it. Like, I hope one day you could come down the river, and if you look on the river left of the last mountain on the wind,
yeah.
upwind, you're gonna see my cabin. It's not built yet, but this is like what I'm picturing. This is my
Oh, nice.
cabin. Yeah. I'll have a library and a cafe and some smoked fish and
Oh
caribou
my
meat
God.
and yeah.
Yeah. No, let me know when that's built. I'll come by for sure. That sounds amazing. That honestly, that was the most fun that river I've had paddling in my life. It's just the whitewater is lovely, and it's coming down out of the mountains. When you're coming down to the mountains, down to that plain, it's just you're just going through these S turns, and it's just fast water, and there's rapids, but they're not crazy rapids, and it's just you're just moving so quickly, and it's just and the mountains are beautiful, and the water is crystal clear and gorgeous, and yeah, I mean, it's heaven, really.
It is. In my language we say that's country and it's the creator's country. And we could say
Yeah.
that's the creator's country, but then we like all the land is the creator's country. But that's what I thought of when I first like went down the
Mhm.
windows, like it was paradise.
So I was totally the same. Literally, I had this thing running through my head the whole time. I was like literally saying, "This is where the world began," and I don't even know where that came from. It was just in my head as I paddled down there. Like, this is where the world began. And I'm not sure if it's because I imagine what this is what the world looked like before it got all 8 billion humans ran all over it. But it just there's something just so pristine and wonderful about it. Yeah, it just got under my skin. Yeah, I totally agree. The creator's land. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. When I first went there, a lot of elders like who was all getting me ready was telling me little stories here and there about the different places.
Hmm.
And uh, I like try to remember, and it's just like all in my mind. But um, a few of the elders in my community were born at different places along the Wind River, or they remember, yeah, being pulled by dog team, uh, and their dads standing up in the sled and like going down the Wind River in the winter, and it's pretty cool. It's yeah, you see how beautiful it is, but then if you have like the stories of the people who are connected to these different places, or like what happened there, or what they done there, or what they made there,
Mm,
or even what it means in the language, it's just
yeah. So that's what I was missing is what I think exactly you're talking about though. Is I mean my so I was lucky in some ways that my great grandfather grew up in Fort Simpson and he wound up actually mapping the Wind River for the Geological Survey of Canada. So I had his map that he did from like 1905,
what?
which sort of yeah, crazy, right?
You need to send
Yeah.
me a
So
copy of that.
oh, I
Holy
will for sure. Yeah, no, it's great, and it was better than any map I had otherwise. Like it was better than any of the modern maps I had. It was like it's like a very detailed map of yeah, and I'll send it to you for sure. Um, So that was really cool because so that's 1905, and he mapped the whole watershed.
Damn, he must have
Yeah,
knew so much people up there.
yeah,
1905, a lot of my people still lived in the Peel watershed.
yeah,
My
yeah.
my grandma said like probably after the 20s and between the 60s,
Hmm.
a lot of people start going and traveling down into McPherson or living down into the Delta region.
Yeah. So it's interesting because he wound up spending a lot of time in Fort McPherson at the sort of as at the end of that trip, and wound up collecting Tetlit Gwich'in stories, which he published actually. So I should send you a link to that because
What's your
it's
dad's
fascinating.
name?
He's my great grandfather, and his name was Charles Campsell. So he was like he did a lot of mapping and exploring in the Western Arctic and stuff like that,
Damn.
back in the day. Yeah, yeah. So that was part of the reason I did that trip was because I had this map. I'm like, oh, you should
How
put
did
this
you
map to.
feel going there knowing that your grandfather went there?
So it was very cool. Yeah, and it was kind of amazing to literally be standing. And I had his diaries too from that trip. So to be standing in places where he was literally describing that place, was kind of amazing. Um, yeah, no, it was cool. I have to say though, people back then so much tougher than we are because, he to get to the headwaters of the wind. We flew in on a bush plane, right, on a pond, like a seaplane, landed on a lake and carried. He like hauled his stuff all up over that mountain range, right, at the sort of end of spring. So they're literally having to dig through like snow and everything just to get down to the where we sort of, like you said, wind our canoe down a little creek and started paddling with all our modern stuff. But no, they were hardcore back then.
Yeah, there's actually like some really good trails though, because to get to the headwaters of the Wind River, you would have to go through like Nash Creek and then like up the Little Wind. Well, it depends where you're coming from. If you're coming from like the Dawson area or Mayo area, like
Mayo, yeah,
yeah, there's like so many different places to go into the Peel, and there's like old
yeah.
trails. That's like my next goal is like to have like winter trails open into the Peel.
I had a question for you. So the Mackenzie Mountains, those have a Gwich'in name, surely, right? What would that
It
be?
depends which mountains, like
Which section you're in? Yeah.
yeah, it depends which section you're in, and they all have like their own names.
Hmm.
Not like names of your people, mostly names like of its use or what where it is.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
description. Yeah.
yeah, our like Gwich'in people are pretty well. My people are pretty lucky because a while back, like your dad, a lot of people were brought together. A lot of my people, and they got to put together a map as well of all like the Gwich'in words for the mountains, the rivers, and the creeks and areas of the Gwich'in country, I guess, in the territories in the Yukon. So it depends where you are. I could probably tell you, but
Yeah, because it seems like a lot of those rivers, they're ready to get the original names
yeah, I
back.
hope so. When the Peel becomes apparently it's becoming a park. Uh,
Uh-huh.
I
That's
actually got a phone call this morning to be part of a team potentially to see what that looks like. So I'm
geez, that's
pretty,
great.
I know, pretty excited. Um,
Is that on the Yukon side?
both because
Oh wow.
for my people, I don't know about get it, but um, that whole Peel court case stuff was a lot, and it took a lot out of me. But it'll be cool to have input of like what it looks like in the future for our people.
Yeah. Well, it's like getting some sort of park or reserve status would certainly protect it in a lot of ways, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is like gonna be my future home. I mean, it is my home,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you know.
No, no. There's gonna be a cabin in there. Yeah. That's. I'm looking forward to visiting.
Yeah, our next
Yeah.
interview is going to be on the river, on the banks
There we
of the Wind
go.
River, on the banks of the Wind River, and we're going to be having fish and Ledema skit and
Yeah, exactly. Watching the caribou go by. Yeah. So what's your so the wind, it sounds like you really enjoy, but there's other rivers that run into the Peel there too. Which ones of those, like the Bonnet Plume, I think you mentioned, and the
Yeah,
Snake, and
yeah.
which of those what do you like as well?
I so far I have been on the Snake, Gupta Jonajik. Then there's the Bonneplum, the Wind and the Heart, and the
Mm,
Ogilvy, and the Blackstone, and the Rat River, and the Peel. Out of those, I only done the Snake, the Wind, like a ton of times, and the Ogilvy.
hmm
I'm saving the Heart for a special trip, and the Bonneplum is for when I become like a pro paddler and I could help lead that trip. I heard a lot of stories before I went into the Peel. I heard a lot of stories, and a lot of them were like pretty frightening. And I learned a lot about the Bonneplum. And then when I learned more about river guiding, I was like, oh, I need to make my way to.
Yeah, it's a more technical river, right? I think there's
Yeah,
rapids are much tougher, and yeah, I heard the Snake's sort of more like the wind. Is
the
that right?
Snake Gute Jonadrik is.
And what does that mean? Say that again.
It's the windy like river. It's probably why they
Yeah,
call it the Snake. It's like a windy
yeah.
river. The Snake River was my second trip in the Peel Watershed, and it was in 2019. During that summer, I started my first official. Well, I was already guiding prior, but it was my first season with Canadian River Expeditions, and as like a pro guide, I guess, and or a guide. I don't consider myself a pro yet. That was a really beautiful trip, but it was also hard when I was on the river. My great great grandmother passed away, but she was the one who encouraged me to see the snake, or Gutta Shonajek, because I never been on that river before, and she was really wanted me to see all these places that she didn't see before, and she knew that every opportunity for me to get on the river was important. And throughout the trip, or the first part of the trip, she ended up passing away. I didn't really know, but the land showed me or told me that she passed away, and it was, yeah, one of the most beautiful trips that I ever been on. And every time I go on the Snake, I think of her. It's beautiful. The river is a little wider than this Wind River, and it has some obstacles, but it's different. I used to tell people I don't think I could choose my favorite river in Peel Watershed, just because they're all like brothers and sisters to me. Like I
Yeah.
didn't choose a favorite sister or brother. They're all got their own characteristics and memories and strengths and stories. So yeah, the Snake is one of my go-to rivers. I love the Ogilvy is another beautiful river. It has a few ledges there, which I never paddled before. So going on the Ogilvy, thinking that it was gonna be like chill, and looking forward and seeing like a ledge, I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I knew it was gonna happen, but
So ledge you can actually paddle through.
ledges, yes.
It's a good way to get take on a lot of water, basically, right?
Yeah, it's pretty technical, or else you could line it.
Yeah.
I ran it all. I was just like getting to know the water in that area. And then you hit the Heart River. And then after that, you hit the Aberdeen Canyon. And the Aberdeen Canyon is a canyon that no one can run, and it has to be portaged. The
hmm
portage is 5 kilometers. I really wanted to challenge myself on that river because of the portage, and I love portaging.
You're the first person that's ever said that on this podcast.
I was joking.
That's good. Good. For the record, Bobby Rose was joking.
Oh my God. I
I thought
love portaging.
if you say it enough, it might come true. Yeah.
But my grandfather and my dad and a whole bunch of my elders and friends used to travel from Doll Creek around Caribou Mountain, where I traveled to in 2008 with my grandfather. When we got to Caribou Mountain and this creek, my grandfather showed me the way to Aberdeen Canyon or a creek near Aberdeen Canyon. I seen where people came out of the creek, and that's how they bypassed the Aberdeen Canyon. However, if they wanted to travel past the Aberdeen Canyon, they would go through the portage there, and then they would hit like the Wind River and the rest of the rivers. So it was for me to go and portage the Aberdeen Canyon again was like, okay, well, if my people done this, then I could do it. I just think that we carry more shit. Like we carry so much gear that it just becomes like multiple rounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a beautiful portage, and the Aberdeen is super beautiful. And to know that like my people travel through that area too was just another gift. Yeah, there's so much places to travel, and I would have multiple times to like get to know it better. And I feel like every year I travel on these rivers or see different places or hear different stories, it's more piece by piece is coming together, and I'm finding myself more through these stories too about who I am and where I come from.
Beautiful. So, how long do you think for to do an expedition up there properly, to do one of these rivers? How long do you think people
I
need?
would say like on the Wind River or any river, like to do proper camping. I know that it's a long time, but 16, 17 days, even 21 days. Like imagine you're able to like camp at different spots on the Wind River at these beautiful areas and do like hiking trips and like see different areas. Even on the Snake River, like 15 days on the Snake to like hike all these amazing areas, like just to relax. In my mind, when I want to relax, like I take myself back to like the Wind River at the last mountain and just breathing in that clean, fresh air and being able to go down to the river and drink that fresh water and see life around you grow or move and having the sun shine on you, like, from the morning until night. And I think a lot of people need that and are searching for that. And these kind of places give you that space to reflect on like who you are and who you are without technology, and what do you mean to this world, or what can you do for this world and our future generations, and how do we want to see ourselves within this world. And when I take young people down these river or even guests, like I ask them be themselves, like this is we welcome you to this land, and we want you to feel safe and well taken care of, but we also want you to get to know the mountains and the river and the plants, and to be able to see the changes, like to talk about the impacts of climate change or how the water system's changing or how we're seeing different animals or we're losing animals up here. And for young people in particular, I think being out on the land in these places gives them a sense of hope for the future, for themselves, and what they want to do. I know that it gave that to me.
I totally agree. It rewires your brain just being out there. Just being in nature generally, but I think to
Yeah.
be that wind trip was with my cousin and my son, and my cousin and I were complaining about American politics for the first 3 days. We just talked about it, and then we had no cell reception anymore, so we ran out of things to get upset about, right? Because our phones weren't dropping more outrages into our. And we're just like, okay, well, we're here now, like let's just enjoy the beauty of everything that's around us. So it really is that. And I think you've touched on this, but the reasons that you felt it was important to have a First Nations outfitter, a First Nations canoe tripping company, what was the thinking behind that?
I wasn't thinking. I'm just kidding. Joking. Joking. When I was on my first trip, Neil Collin told me that this is a once in a lifetime trip. And my Gigi Robert told me it's $1 million trip. And when I was on the Peel and I was on the Wind River and I just experienced everything that we just talked about for the first time, I was telling my friend Dana as we were like finished hiking this mountain, like, why is there people not here? Why are people never came back? And why are our elders telling us this is a once in a million or once in like a lifetime trip or $1 million trip, when I don't think that should be the case, especially in 2000s.
Yeah. When it wasn't the case 2 generations ago in your own family, right?
Well, my grandfather we always done trips in our community for young people. I grew up in that lifestyle where we were always having people at our camps, and we were always teaching on both sides of my family. I never thought I was gonna do that. However, since that first trip, I just said, like, I my goal, and never promised anybody except for the land, is that I'll bring more people out in that area. And as I learned more about river guiding and what it was all about, because I didn't know anything about river guiding at all. I didn't even know it was a thing, which is funny. And coming into the industry as an Indigenous person wasn't welcoming, or they
Mm.
weren't prioritizing Indigenous people as river guides, as the guides. They wanted them there to be interpreters or anything else. And I was like, no, well, I want to be a guide because I know that I'm good at this and I could be better. And a lot of people told me that I couldn't do it, or because I was a woman, I couldn't do it, or because I have no experience, I couldn't do it. So I tried even harder, and I worked harder, and I worked for multiple companies throughout the north, and I done a lot of river trips, and I just felt like I needed somewhere where I could feel at home and make decisions for our communities as First Nations, as Indigenous peoples. And it made me think, because we could do this for like nonprofit work and nonprofit work, but how does people profit off of it? How do we build our communities and build that wealth and knowledge, but generational wealth, that where we work with the land and we are giving back to the land, but also giving back to our communities and people. And no one in my family, besides my grandfather, I think, ever had a business. And I've seen all these other businesses around me pop up, or people coming up north, or people doing trips for our communities, but not treating young people in a good way. I was like, maybe this be something that I could do, since I've already been doing it. And I end up working beside my friend Joel Hibbert at Canadian River Expeditions, and he has been mentoring me
Mm.
business and river guiding and being better leader, but also being able to work with my communities and people to bring our people out there. And like I said in the beginning, like going back to that place where I made the promise to the land that I'll bring more people out there. By doing that, the land already offered me an opportunity to get to know my grandparents better, or my people better, and get to know myself as well. Because 8 years ago when I started, I didn't have opportunities that I have right now, or opportunities that I was able to share. And after the Peel court case, I was really tired and exhausted of politics and the bullshit behind it. I was tired of being in these spaces where people were talking about land, but they weren't talking about the people. And I didn't really want to do land based stuff, but when I went back out on the land and I told the land what I wanted, or what I could do, all these opportunities end up coming towards me. And it was kind of effortless, but it was a lot of hard work. It's also like an honor and privilege to do this work and to travel the land on behalf of like my grandparents and my elders, and also being able to share the stories with other people and now train other people. It's not millions of dollars now, or young people don't think that it's once in a lifetime trip anymore, because they know that there's somebody in their backyards who are leading these trips, and that there's opportunities out there now. Now that we're training guides and they're working for other tourism companies, it gives other people in the world to experience these places led with Indigenous love and guidance.
So where do you see Dinjiju? Like, where do you hope it is 10 years from now, say?
Damn, no one ever asked me that question before. I always think about this, and it really helps me make decisions in the future. Like right now, I'm thinking about what my business looks like in 50 years or even 100 years, and how we could build that foundation now, even though that we've been running for a few years. It's like, how do we set something up for the future? I hope for Dinjeju in 10 years that we'll see, or I know that we'll see, is that we're running more trips in the summer in many different places all at once. And we're having uh, Indigenous and non-Indigenous guides working together in lead-in trips. I hope that the Indigenous Youth River Guide training program that I'm building, is a school, and that I have my guides and training helping run that, and elders in the community. I'm also hoping that that training can be offered to other Indigenous people throughout Canada, um, and that I'm able to have a cabin in the Peel Watershed, maybe two cabins. I'm able to host programming and live out there and have people drop by and really see my people out there. Because right now, there's not a lot of people in that area. A lot of people lived in that area, but right now there's no cabins of my people. And if you know, when you go past Taco Bar up
Mm-hmm.
Caribou River, you're gonna start seeing cabins. Like you're gonna go past Trail River, and you're gonna go past the Road River and Three Cabin and Dedo and Jiguchanai, not Jiguchanai, 8 Miles and whatnot. So um, I'm hoping, yeah, to see a cabin up there and see people back up there. I always had a dream that I could bring our elders back up there one day. Like that was one of the reasons why I started my business. But a lot of the elders who I worked with in the Peel court case and growing up with, a lot of them are gone. So even bringing young elders or elders up there again and really bringing them into these remote areas with no cell service and whatnot we have that we depend on in our daily lives, and just like how I grew up, I
Yeah,
guess. Be like how I grew up. Be like, where I watched my grandfather teach trapping programs, hunting program, and learning how to camp and travel. Like that's what I want to do.
that's a beautiful vision. Absolutely beautiful vision. So maybe what the plan should be then is our next interview will be 10 years from now in your cabin, and we'll do a vision check.
Oh my gosh, yes.
There we go.
Yes. Imagine that. We need to put it in our calendars.
We should. I'll do that as soon as we're done here.
I just put my friend's gonna have a 60th birthday in 30 years at my cabin too. So
Okay, we'll break it in for her. That sounds good.
oh my gosh.
Bobbi Rose, this has been a real pleasure, and thank you for taking us into the Peel Watershed and showing us your beautiful homeland there. And just to remind everyone the name of your outfitting company.
Dinjeju Adventures.
And how can they find you?
You could find me online at www.dinjeju.com.
Awesome.
And on social media, if you're on social media.
You're on all the places.
Or they could call me. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, listen, thanks again for taking the time to talk to us on the Explore podcast. This has been a real pleasure.
Masicho, Benachish, Kunani, Megwich, Mesi, Hi.
And thanks to all of you for listening. A reminder that Canadian Geographic Magazine is Canada's best magazine, and it's only $28.50 for a year, which gets you 6 print issues and full digital access to award-winning articles, maps, and photography all about this amazing country of ours. It also makes a fantastic gift. You can sign up at canadiangeographic.ca/subscribe. You'll be happy that you did. If you like this episode, copy the link and send it along to a friend or family member. It's actually pretty easy to do, and it's a big help to us in reaching as wide an audience as possible. And of course, please rate and review us where you listen as well. Until next time, when we'll explore again, paddle in hand, I'm David McGuffin.
I think right now we're enjoying very much looking back at the Earth, and it's just a fantastic experience, and I just can't wait to get back and start telling people.
We left Simpson about June 10th with a fur brigade consisting of a number of yacht boats, each manned by 10 voyageurs.
For us Inuit, it means that Inuit oral history is very strong.
And we flew low over every inch of the country that could be. We were hoping that he would fire at us.
I guess 160 dives or so. There are shrimp, fish swimming around outside. It's just fabulous here.
Well, I'm a first for Canada.